Well, welcome everyone. It is 2 o'clock. I know we have quite a large attendee list and folks are going to continue to roll on, but we have a lot to share today in a jam-packed 1 hour session. So I think we should go ahead and get started. Our session today, as I mentioned, is really packed. You are going to hear from some incredible players in the cannabis space. And I'm really, really excited for you to hear their stories and what we have to share with you today about edibles. My name is Jacqueline, and I will be your host today. And I am the president of ISA, which is a consumer insights agency based in Los Angeles. So let's talk edibles. There are so many things happening right now, societally, personally, behaviorally, that are really, really driving this shift to edibles. We hear edibles are the next big thing. We hear so many new players, so many new entrants. So what is it that's happening, right? What's really driving this demand for edibles? And like, what is this shift about? You can kind of look at it in a couple different ways. We've got societal changes, right? Some that are super obvious, right? So as cannabis becomes more accepted, as legalization becomes more widespread, as our lovely friends over in the city that never sleep are about to join us, right? We see. So that's kind of obvious, right? There's some changes happening overall in society that's making cannabis and edibles more acceptable. And then there's some nuanced things happening. When we started in COVID, I'm sure none of us anticipated what was to come. And everything has been impacted. And we're seeing that, of course, in cannabis as well. I mean, from distribution all the way to delivery, but also with the consumer behavior. So what we see is happening is like the pandemic comes, right? And people are cannabis users. Now, all of a sudden, they're professionals. They may use cannabis. And now maybe they're full-time teachers too. So now we have a need for discretion. Also, as things were evolving, cannabis was an essential business. Everything was closed, but cannabis was essential. People were more open to try. They weren't having to go in their regular routines. We were seeing things become really interrupted. Also, huge focus on respiratory health, right? So folks are looking for ways. How do we consume this product that does so many beneficial things to our mind and our body and still not then damage our body in a way? So we have a respiratory focus. Of course, there's still some, lingering concerns around vape, et cetera. But then we also have these societal changes combined with this wellness culture. And when we talk about wellness culture, we're not just talking about dieting, et cetera. We're talking about this culture where folks want to participate in and consume things that help benefit them in some way to help them get further along in their health and wellness journey. They're looking for alternative type products, right? They're in pursuit of better health. And what we're finding is that you have a lot of research we're going to share with you today, but that consumers are really looking for customizable experiences. So we'll talk a little bit about how edibles fit into that space, right? And what is it that we can do to stay well and be simple, right? So if I'm going to have a cannabis edible because that's what's going to help me sleep, wouldn't it be great if it also had magnesium in it? And maybe there's some probiotics. Maybe if it's a beauty product, it now has essential oils in it or collagen. All of these things that we can do to combine are just really, really becoming something that the market's demanding, right? So whether you're somebody or you have a patient or a friend or a family member who wants to fall asleep, wake up, be creative, be focused, go hiking, there's a combination for that, right? And we're going to learn. Everybody here has different experience. And one of the things that I love about getting these discussions together is that you find we have a category and you would think, oh, everything's aligned. And when you see even the vast experience and things that go in, I think you're going to be really, really excited. So now I want to make sure that we have plenty of time to speak to our incredible panel today because they're the ones with the real interesting information. They're going to share with us their experiences, maybe some lessons they learned. Potentially there was a challenge or two, not sure. And then we are going to hear a little bit about the actual science, right? So how do we get from this beautiful plant that's full of all of these beneficial properties down into something, a mint or a gummy or a spray or however we get there, right? So today you are going to hear from a bunch of junkies. You thought you were coming to a cannabis panel, right? And you're saying, what does that mean? Well, you're going to hear from a science junkie, a consumer insights junkie, a beauty junkie, a speed junkie, and an academic chemist junkie. I bet you never thought you would hear that in a single hour, right? So we're going to hear from Adriana Hemans, who's the VP of Demand and Emerging Categories at ISA, and she's going to share some of the consumer actual research data with us, and that'll be a really fun section I'm looking forward to. And of course, this webinar would not be possible without our partnership with Vertosa. And ISA and Vertosa have partnered, and we're going to hear from Austin Stevenson today, who's our not ours, but his Chief Innovation Officer. And he's going to talk about the science of infusion. And what you're going to learn is, I've heard him chat before, and he's going to talk about Vertosa's emulsion systems that help, or what actually goes into these infused products. And it is so super fascinating. And we have Dorian Morris, who is our beauty junkie. Hope you don't mind that I have labeled you as such. And she is the founder and CEO of Undefined Beauty. And what's so interesting, and I'm really excited to hear from Dorian about, is that her whole business is based on clean, conscious, and inclusive lifestyle. And with two real main purposes and vision, one around democratizing wellness, and secondly, around destigmatizing the plant magic. And I'm just really excited to hear from that. And then, of course, if you are familiar with the edibles market, then I would guess that you are familiar with our next brand, Wana Brands. And we're going to hear from Mike Hennessy, and he's the VP of Innovation at Wana. And he is our speed junkie. And you may say, how is that so? Well, he was the one who headed up the team crafting and creating the new Wana Brands quick line of gummies. And it's all based on this science that actually bypasses the liver metabolism in order to act more quickly within the system. So super interesting. And then we're going to hear from Carolina. And Carolina, has a lot of experience like us, like organic chemistry, biochemistry. She's the founder and chief science officer at Dreamt. And she's our academic endeavor here. And she's got more than 10 years experience in synthesis and extraction. And she has also been featured in Rolling Stone, Hello Giggle, MG, Forbes, and was named Dope Magazine's Outstanding Woman in Cannabis. So I hope you all are excited. And now let's get into the meat. So let's chat a little bit first with Mike and Carolina. So I want to hear from you guys. When you founded your organization, like what were you looking to fill? Like, what was the need? What was the impetus? What types of experiences were you really hoping to provide for your consumers? Could you give us a little insight there?
Sure. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Okay. Hi, this is Carolina Mitchell. Thank you for the introduction. As you mentioned, I do come from academia. And well, it's very different when you come from academia. When you're working in the academic environment, in the scientific environment and scientific background, everything you say and everything you do must be backed by science. You must have data to support anything you said, to support your work, and to support everything. And kind of that's what I wanted to bring to the cannabis industry with my company. There is a lot of misconceptions still. The cannabis industry is still kind of new. And even though we love the plant, I love the plant, I'm a junkie, as you said. Cannabinoids and the plant, unfortunately, are no magic. I'm sorry. They're no magic and they don't cure everything. However, they're absolutely fascinated. And if you use the right doses, the right formulations, the right matrix, the right method of administration, that's extremely important to make your product effective. So that's what I wanted to bring to the industry. My background is in pharmacology, chemistry, molecular biology. I have about 20 years of experience working in any type of lab you can imagine, from gene therapy to pharmacology, developing new pharmaceutical formulations. And I wanted to bring kind of that expertise to the cannabis industry. For example, when we create topicals with cannabis, if you don't do it right, if you don't put something in the formulation that improve or increase the permeability of cannabinoids in your skin, doesn't matter how much THC or CBD you rub in your joints, they won't get absorbed if you don't formulate something with a permeability enhancer. Your skin doesn't absorb liposoluble molecules, they absorb only hydrosoluble molecules. So you really have to develop a product that will be absorbed. It's not just about using THC and a cream and that's it. So that's what I wanted to bring into the industry: professionalism, science, make formulations that really work. And also, specifically for one of my brands, Dreamt, this is a sleep brand, and cannabinoids are great for sleep, but there is also a misconception that there are some cannabinoids that specifically help you for sleep. And unfortunately, the only cannabinoid that helps you for sleep is THC. Uh, and even if you use THC, you have to use it in the right dose. And even when you use it in the right dose, THC is not perfect. So you have to use other molecules to improve the effect of THC on sleep. And in our brands, we use other natural molecules, other plants like valerian root extract, melatonin, and other compounds to improve the effects that already cannabis has. So that's kind of what we wanted to bring to the industry: formulations that really work. And we don't see our company as a cannabis company, we see it as a solution oriented company that uses cannabis to provide quality products that can improve the quality of life of people.
So incredible. It's interesting how folks enter the space from all different categories. And I bet 20 years ago, when you started in academia and science, you probably didn't envision, that this is where you would end up. Like, so interesting. And so I know that with that Mike, that you have a formulation, and I'd be curious to understand. I know you're the speed junkie. What I assume that you wanted to bring something quick active, but would love to hear from you. About your crew, about bringing this new technology, this new fast acting. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, thanks, Jacqueline. Speed junkie. That's the first time I've been called that.
Yeah,
you
gotta watch how you throw that around.
That's a new one to add to my resume there.
Yeah.
And quick clarification, as many of the attendees know, I was not the founder of Wana by any means. That credit goes to our wonderful co-founder and CEO, Nancy Whiteman. I just want to give credit where credit's due.
Absolutely. Nancy's incredible.
Absolutely. So such a treat and pleasure to be able to work with her. And Wana was founded in 2010. So early on, the goals that we were trying to achieve were a lot more simple and basic than they are today. We were just trying to create the most consistent, potent, and really delicious edibles that people were interested in using. At a time when people were spraying hash on products, there wasn't widespread testing. There was, unknown edibles getting people extraordinarily high, and other ones just bunk, not working at all. And at that point in time, we working with labs to get our products tested. We worked with creating formulations that worked using cannabinoids and terpenes, and introducing ratios into a market where CBD and THC ratios didn't exist. We worked with food consultants and formulators to really perfect our recipe of gummies. We've tested over 20 different kinds of pectin, and all that groundwork has really paid off because people appreciate a well-made, well-functioning herb. But these days, we're really looking to see what is the next thing? How do we use science? Really, a lot of what Carolina has brought up is where the industry's heading. Let's use science to back up what we're talking about. And as she mentioned, cannabinoids are lipophilic, and they do not get into our bodies very easily, with absorption of edibles being 6 to 10%, and that can vary widely between different individuals, so our dosing can change. And beyond that, they have a long onset time. It takes a while to kick in, which can be an issue for new users. And excuse me, I just have to plug in my computer. I should have done this beforehand.
No problem.
Okay, keep the stream going.
Yeah, we got it.
And third, edibles have a very particular experience. Our livers are digesting delta 9 into 11 hydroxy, and it feels different. So really, the gap we were trying to identify in the market is, how do we make edibles more appealing to new users? How do we make them easier to dose? And how do we offer an alternate experience from the classic edible? And so what we were able to do is, over a couple of years, is work with some technology partners in creating encapsulations for these oily cannabinoids. And this is really where the speed comes in. By encapsulating those cannabinoids, we're removing the lipophilic, we're hiding the lipophilic components of those molecules, allowing them to be absorbed by our system more quickly, getting it into the bloodstream before a lot of it is metabolized by the liver, delivering delta 9 in a much faster onset product with a very different experience. So now we're able to offer both classic edible experiences as well as quick edible experiences. And I think that's one of the beauties of cannabis, is how many different use cases there really are.
And did you find that was something that you identified as a need in the marketplace, or something you were hearing from consumers at the time?
That's a great question. This was something that we identified as a need, but I don't think this was something that was really being asked for in the market yet. And part of that is the science wasn't generally well understood by consumers. Edibles were kind of off limits to certain individuals. They just said, no, I don't like edibles. I don't like the experience. They take too long. They're too intense. They last too long. So as a formulator and product developer, we started to realize that there would be an opportunity if we could solve for that issue by using these technologies. So we really found a gap in the market that we were able to fill, and it's I think where a lot of edibles are going to be going over the next few years.
Yeah, interesting. And I know later we'll hear from Austin. So talking about when, people used to just spray, right? So one edible might have overload of THC and another one has nothing on it and there's no viability. And I know Austin talks a lot about that and how the emulsions kind of fit into that. So we'll be excited to hear how it all connects together at the end. And then, of course, we have Dorian, our beauty junkie. And Dorian, I would just love to hear from you. What kind of challenges have you had building your brand, and how have people received, what your mission and how you're approaching the marketplace? I'd love just to hear a little bit more. How is it that you're making, the plant more accessible, about your inclusivity? I just want to hear all about it, and where you came from and why you're here.
Yeah. So can you hear me and see me?
I can hear and see you. And you look so cool when the music was playing at the beginning and you were like walking through that beautiful property. It looked like some video we had set up. We did.
Yeah, I'm actually testing a product right now, and it's a sun care specific product. So I'm trying to absorb all of the vitamin D right now.
Fantastic. I love it. We're doing product testing about right now?
We're doing it right now.
Yes, and I love it.
So Undefined is a unique business. So I am not a cannabis company. I am a company that's focused on plant magic, and cannabis and CBD is one channel that I'm focused on. But for me, it's broader. It's about how to create wellness-focused products that people can understand and they can afford. And so Undefined is bringing something new, novel, fresh to the table. So I guess my background, I am a beauty and wellness junkie. So I've worked across corporate beauty roles from the likes of, I was an early employee at Kendo, which was a division of Sephora. I've worked at Sundial before they were acquired by Unilever. I worked in food marketing at General Mills. So I have a very broad experience, and CoverGirl was my most recent job before launching Undefined. And one thing that I recognized across all of these different opportunities is that something was missing from the space, and that something was inclusivity. And so I thought with bringing Undefined to the table, I could solve that pinch point. And so for me, it's about creating plant-based solutions that are accessibly priced. So very similar to what Carolina was talking about. It's like really thinking through the lens of solving key pinch points. And so the first collection that I brought to market was the Glow collection, focused on the benefits of CBD. I am working on a very new collection that'll be launching this summer, focused on the benefits of adaptogenic mushrooms, which I think that adaptogens and mushrooms are something that you're going to hear a lot more of coming forward, because they work actually in the cannabis space very well together, pairing very well with the beautiful plant magic that is cannabis. And then I'm also working on a capsule collection focused on the benefits of THC and pairing them with adaptogens. So a lot of fun stuff happening. And one thing that's super important to me as a Black female founder is what I call conscious capitalism. So across my entire supply chain, I partner with like-minded, conscious, female-founded, minority-owned, and LGBTQ businesses, from the manufacturing partners I work with to my creative support, because I believe that business empowers business. And so as I grow as a company and a brand, I want to ensure that other communities that have been, disenfranchised have the opportunity to grow as well. So very excited for kind of this new foray and into, the world of plant magic, and really focusing on, there's a lot of edibles in the market. I'm not trying to just be another edible. It's about really listening to the consumer and understanding, what's keeping her, and I say her because I think that that is a huge opportunity, really the Canna Curious. Like, how do I solve these pinch points that have been hurdles for her to adopting CBD and cannabis? And one way that's been an amazing consumer engine for me was pre-COVID, I had a brick and mortar. So in Oakland, in the Temescal area of Oakland, it was called Undefined Collective. So it was a retail store and platform, 50 brands, all female founded, minority owned, LGBT and local. And it was a great opportunity for me to engage daily with consumers and understand, it was mostly CBD products in store, so and other plant-based solutions. And so understand, what are the hurdles? What are her hesitations? I even had a tincture bar in store that was kind of equivalent to like a wine bar, where people could come up, they could taste all of the tinctures, which had, different dosage, flavor profiles, origin. And so like it made them feel more comfortable because they actually had a person that was guiding them through the experience. And all of those learnings and wisdom I got from this retail platform, I used to then inform my innovation pipeline. So it's been kind of a very more anecdotal, but data-driven approach to really thinking through how I can bring something to market that feels unique and different.
Yeah, absolutely. What's been interesting too is, as all of you have shared about your businesses or the businesses that you've, helped to grow, you've talked a lot about your focus on the consumer, right? We want it to be a good experience. We want it to be scientifically sound. We want to be inclusive, right? So I'm hearing a lot of these same themes, even though you all are kind of focused on different things. One thing that I really, really love about this space, and I get the opportunity to talk to lots of folks who have founded and who have helped grow, and it's just great to be in a category where everybody really is so involved with the plant and believes so much in the product and getting it to people in the right ways. And I just love it. In the beginning stages, you can always tell the difference in the companies and the brands who are really, focused on the plant and delivering to the customer versus an economic opportunity, which of course everybody has. But it's just amazing when you sit down and you talk to real senior folks or legacy folks in the space. It's really founded around our belief in love for the plant and what it can do and how it can be leveraged in combination, right, with other products to really enhance just overall wellness and lives. So curious from all of you, so feel free, anyone, to jump in as we're looking forward to 2021. I cannot believe we're already in May, and you've chatted a little bit about it, but like, what are maybe some of the cannabinoids that you're most interested in exploring, and or even like forms? Like, what are you thinking, something new? What kinds of things are you exploring? I'd love to spend a couple minutes and just talk about that.
I guess I'm going first.
All right.
Just to keep the order. My company, for example, it's already almost mid 2021. One of the things that we're more excited about is bringing 2 more brands into the market. As mentioned, we are kind of a wellness company, not just a cannabis company. So we want to bring an anti-anxiety line using cannabinoids and other natural compounds, and also an anti-pain or pain management line. So they are going to be different formulations, of course. In the anxiety, we are going to probably keep it on tinctures and edibles. And the pain line, we're going to bring other forms such as topicals with high absorption. Combinations, again, looking at any plan that can help us achieve our goal. Like something that I did with Dreamt, I added many molecules, including green tea extract because it has L-theanine and reduce the anxiety so you can sleep better. I added melatonin, which is the hormone that indicates your brain that it's time to go to bed. I added GABA, which increases serotonin in your brain. So I added many other molecules found in other plants, including terpenes that are not found in cannabis, and all so I can like boost the effects of THC, have a very specific effect, but also an improved effect. And some of the other things that I'm very excited about in this new, some of the things that we do in our company is scientific outreach. So, our marketing officer or chief marketing officer, he also is the editor for MG Magazine, working more in the marketing aspects, but I'm the scientific editor in MG Magazine. So every month I write this very easy to read 1,000 words scientific information related to cannabis. I'm trying to inform people what is the truth about the products that are currently in the market, which ones are effective and which ones are not. Some of the articles that I wrote was about CBN. I'm sorry, but none of the research in the last 60 years show any benefit of CBN for sleep. One of the other articles I wrote was about actually nanoemulsifications and how hard and challenging that is. One of the articles I also wrote was strain-specific edibles. There is no such a thing as strain-specific edibles. Unfortunately, you cannot get a specific effect for an edible. I wish, but you cannot, like you do with flower or with vapes. And the last one is going to be about all the effects and benefits of CBD, and actually describing the wake promoting or alerting effects and cognitive effects of CBD in your brain. CBD actually will help you to feel awake, alert, and helps you to relax. However, it doesn't really help you with the sleep. I mentioned before, THC is the only cannabinoid that participate in the sleep cycle. So that's kind of our goals for this year. Inform the people by using MG Magazine, publish my articles, and also bring products focusing still on sleep, anti-anxiety, and pain management.
Yeah, there's so much education, right, for consumers. And I know that like folks hear all these terms and they're not familiar, and most people don't know that terpenes are like found in everyday things like food and stuff that we eat anyway. So people think, they get all nervous. Mike, what about you? So Speed Junkie, what are you looking for 2021?
So 2021 is going to be an exciting year. 2020 has been an exciting year for new products from Wana. But really, there's been a lot of talk in edibles about new artisanal edibles, that it's really the future is going to be very boutique, unique, chef-inspired recipes. And I have nothing against that, but I think we want to have a different vision of what artisanal means for edibles. I'm a speed junkie, so I'm going to be, real clear that we are delivering a drug, and drugs create experiences in our brain, right? And that is really where we're going to get more artisanal about edibles. We're going to be using different ratios of cannabinoids. We're going to be using new minor cannabinoids. We're going to be learning from the plant what it has created, replicating those in edibles for specific experiences. We're going to be using drugs in ways to offer people different experiences from edibles. And that's how you can get artisanal. We're going to be looking into a lot of minors. Carolina, thank you so much for saying that about CBN. I've been trying to preach that as well. There is no evidence, but not to say that cannabinoid doesn't have its own effects and have its own reasons to be included in formulations. It's just not the one-hit wonder for sleep. So we're going to be looking at the science, taking that and creating formulations that are going to be new and unique and offer new experiences, such as helping with promoting sleep, reducing anxiety. There's going to be a lot more nuanced products that can offer different cases beyond just THC, which is a pretty, one directional train that gets you high. But really what THC is able to do is unlock the endocannabinoid system, and we can modulate and tweak experiences with terpenes and other minor cannabinoids from there, because many people are using cannabis for wellness. And it's that wellness aspect of cannabis that's going to open up the door to so many more new and exciting products. And that's what I think 2021 is going to have in store into the future. So we'll see a lot more differentiated dosing, from micro doses to larger doses for consumers, other conditions, as well as minor cannabinoids like CBG, THCV. There's a whole lot more coming. We're really just scratching the surface, which is so exciting.
Yeah, so interesting. I'm seeing some questions come up too in the comments, and we'll try to work those in as we go, because there's some interesting stuff being asked. Dorian or Austin or Adriana, did you want to share at all with 2021? I know, Dorian, you said you had some new things you were looking forward to. Just curious your thoughts.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll echo both what was shared. I'm super excited about the ability to incorporate other minor cannabinoids that are very function forward. So like THCV is a great one. I think that on the appetite suppression, metabolism kind of detox angle, that's super exciting. For me, I'm building out a concept right now. It's called mood bites, which again are very functional in nature, and they have to fit within my ethos. So they're vegan, they're fruit infused, they're micro dose, and they also have quick onset. So it's solving for all of those key pinch points as people are thinking about their edible experience. And to the comment that was made from Michael about the artisanal approach, I think that can also come to life in very different ways, because for me, accessibly priced products is important. It does put a little bit of parameter around, where I have flexibility to play. But I think one area that, I feel really excited about is just flavor profiles and how you can really bring to life unique experiences through kind of, infusing, fruit-based formulas that are using two very maybe different flavor profiles that can come together in a unique way. So I think that's one way that it can, you can reinforce kind of the artisanal approach.
Yeah, really interesting. I know that we want to hear about some of the consumer insights and some of the science. And then Adriana and Austin, feel free when you guys are sharing about your insights and your science, if you would like to weave in anything you think on 2021, we'd love to hear that. And we're hearing a lot about the consumer. We're hearing a lot about customized experience, personalization, benefits, wellness, all of these things that are really, really focused on a consumer experience. And what I'm hearing from this panel is that we also want to make products that can give consumers the specific experience that they want without having to have another experience along with it, right? So sometimes you might take something, you can go to sleep, but then it might make you feel agitated in the morning, right? So this idea of you're gonna have an experience, this is a mood bite, right? So that you can feel happy, but you don't want to feel happy and then at the end you're anxious, right? So that's what I find is just so fascinating. So Adriana, why don't you help us out here? Like, are we on track? There's all this new products coming out, right? Is this what consumers actually want? Is this what they're telling us? We've got some great things. What I find fascinating about this industry too is this whole idea of, creating demand and creating things that consumers don't even know that they need. And then also taking a step back and really understanding their lifestyles, their day parts, their usage to understand what they really need. Because sometimes when you ask, people don't know, right? They're like, I don't know. Like, I would have never known I wanted a cannabis inhaler, right? Before somebody showed me there was one. So Adriana, tell us, are we on track? Is this the right stuff? Are we doing the right thing? Is this what people are saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jacqueline. I'm Adriana from ISA, and I'm going to share with you guys some really cool data that we pulled from talking to consumers. I'm sharing a slide now. Hopefully you guys can see it. Give me a thumbs up if you can see. Okay, awesome. So I'm going to kind of take you through some things that we know about the edibles consumer and then also dispel some common misconceptions.
Ooh.
So to back up, where we got this information from is we talked to 1,000 cannabis consumers every other week. We asked them about their spending, their usage occasions, what products they like, and their lifestyle. And this lets us stay on top of trends as they are emerging. So looking at the edibles market as a whole, we see a lot of stats that back up what a lot of leaders know intuitively, that the edibles consumer is a little bit different than the overall cannabis consumer. This is someone who's focused on health and wellness. They're attracted to edibles as a healthier alternative to smoking or combustion. And I think it should be noted here that there's a lot of talk about medical versus rec. In our industry, people tend to try to put people in one or the other category. But I think even just based on what our speakers have said so far, there really is that third consumer, the wellness consumer, right? So they're not the people who necessarily are looking to get high or have consume for a social occasion. For them, it's more about their self-care routine, right? It's about a beauty product or to help them sleep. And this is a huge opportunity in the market because these people are likely to be daily consumers. And we see that backed up in the data too. Amongst our edible consumers, 45% are consuming daily an edible product. And of course, we also want to talk about the impact of COVID too, right? Which Jacqueline alluded to a little bit earlier. There were huge, significant shifts in behavior across all categories. And within cannabis, I think we saw a lot of people drawn to edibles because they saw it as a good option for lung health. And of course, something that isn't talked about as often, but I do think it played a big part in how edibles became more popular during the pandemic is discretion, right? Schools are closed, offices are closed, people are in their homes with their children all day. They need a product that they don't need to be as obvious about when they're consuming it. And the data does back this up too, with 65% of edibles consumers have children at home who are under 18.
Interesting.
Moving ahead to the myths section, I'm going to bust 3 myths. The first is about flavor. So we see sometimes brands get a little bit creative with the flavors they're bringing. And I don't think this is a real flavor, but just as an example, kiwi, asparagus, lime, like sometimes you see unusual flavor combinations and you wonder like, who would actually want that? And consumers do tell us that they want sometimes a traditional flavor. And this makes sense when you're thinking about all the people that are new to the market, first-time consumers, people who may be trying an edible for the very first time. For them, the novelty is the experience of consuming cannabis. So they want the flavors to be something a little more accessible, a little bit more familiar.
Interesting.
And then I also want to talk about a gender stereotype, which we love to bust gender stereotypes, that women are obsessed with chocolate and men don't care that much for it. But when we look at the edibles consumer, we see that men are actually more likely than women to say that they prefer their edible in a chocolate bar form, which is pretty interesting, I thought. The last point I want to share with you guys in terms of myths, and this is something that Jacqueline actually shared with me earlier. We were talking about it. Not everybody wants to avoid tasting the plant in their edibles. And that might be different when you look at beverages, but in the edible space, people are not necessarily rejecting that flavor. I think that there's an assumption in the industry, there's a focus on eliminating the cannabis plant taste altogether, but that might not necessarily be what everybody wants. We asked 1,000 consumers how strongly they agree or disagree with the statement, the less I can taste of the plant, the better. And only 39% strongly agreed. And we have 11% that disagreed and said, no, I want to taste the plant. So interesting to see those pop up. I think, what does this mean for companies? It doesn't make sense probably to overhaul your entire product line to meet the needs of that 11% who want to taste it. But it is an illustration of how research can reveal opportunities in the market that might be overlooked otherwise, where you could potentially provide a product that nobody else is providing, because you can check your myths and your biases. And talking about research in the edibles market and for product development in general, some examples for when it makes sense to like bring in some data to support what you're doing. Of course, in the early stages, a simple gut check, right? Do people want this product? Is there demand for it? Is this something people are interested in? And then when you get later in your product development stages and you have a physical product to test, we actually put that into consumers' hands and they try it and they experience it and they give us feedback on what it was like and whether the product delivered on the promise that it made. And that's really interesting to see those projects as well. We also do a lot of work with brands outside of cannabis who come to us wanting to understand, is now the right time to jump into the market? For example, you're a hotel chain. You're trying to decide if now is the right time to put an edible product on your room service menu. Or maybe a grocery chain who wants to understand if now is the right time to stock cannabis products on their shelves. They want to know what the interest is it the right time, and what is the overlap between their target audience and cannabis consumers generally. So a lot of interesting questions out there. It's important, I think, to invite consumers to be a part of that process and help with co-creation and creating the next generation of great products.
Yeah, I know we've done some different testing, and I will say that sometimes the research we get back is much different than the answer we thought. And so I know 5 years ago, I was out on the road saying to folks that were throwing products out on the market, I was like, hey, I think we might be past guts and guesses here, guys. Like, we need to like actually find out what we need and what's happening. I saw a question pop up where somebody asked, and I'm not looking at it exactly, but something like, why are there only a couple of leading brands, right, in these spaces, like in edible and in beverage? There's a lot of brands, but there's big key owners of the brand. And we're going to hear a little bit now from Austin about the science, and that might answer part of the question, right? So producing an edible, not only from an experience point, but from a viability point, from a sustainability, there's so much that actually goes into extracting the plant. I know that we had a question also from the audience, how do I go from my kitchen, right, to a dispensary shelf? And there's so many steps, right, in the middle. So there's lots of, the whole supply chain, the science, the testing, it's quite a process, much different than just a plant-based product that might be a flower, right? So it's a little bit different to get it from that flower to an edible. And I think that that's probably a barrier. And then we'll hear from Austin, some of the other things. So Austin, I have heard you share, we have chatted many a time, and I know you can talk way over my head about all the fancy stuff, but I love to hear, about that, if that's the specific extraction process at Vertosa, the emulsion. You've shared with us some really interesting things, and I really want to kind of get into that. You ready? Want to hear about some infusion and product dev cycles?
Absolutely. Thank you, Jacqueline.
Cool. You bet.
Amazing to be part of this panel. Thank you to the entire group that's here. It's an amazing, innovative group of professionals that are really focused about creating amazing cannabis experiences. So I'm going to share my screen here in a moment and share with you a few slides on kind of going through plant to retail shelf. But before we do that, a little bit of background on myself. My name is Austin Stevenson. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer here at Vertosa, where we focus on one thing only, and that's being the best delivery mechanism for cannabinoids. I've been in the cannabis space for the past 6.5 years as an investor, advisor, and operator across the entire supply chain. So everything from cultivation through extraction, testing, and ultimately getting in the hands of buyers at retailers. Immediately before Vertosa, I was leading the hemp and CBD testing unit at an analytical chemistry laboratory, Eurofin Scientific. In that role, my clients were CVS, Kroger's, and other retailers, and I had the great fortune of testing tens of thousands of different products. I'm a products guy. I'm the guy that takes 20, 30 supplements a day. I'm the guy that actually has fun at the grocery store, going up and down the aisles, grabbing something, testing something out just to try it, see how it works, see how it makes me feel, that sort of thing. And so working in an analytical chemistry laboratory, you get to see the good, bad, and the ugly of all types of products. And as part of the reason why we exist here at Vertosa is because I have seen personally, products that have 100 milligrams written in the label, and then when you test it, there's nothing in there. Or I've seen instances where there's a beverage product where the all intention of the beverage product is to be delicious and good, but I open it up and I see a bunch of stuff floating on top, and it's a little icky, just to say the least. And so, getting to a consistent, predictable, familiar kind of infused experience is a lot of work, and it's a very complex chemistry. I love to kind of walk you guys through that, tell you a little bit about what we've done here at Vertosa to help mitigate some of those challenges and create amazing experiences. So whoever's controlling the screen, if I could get share screen access, I'll kick us off. There we go. Cool. All right.
So we are technical wizards to boot.
Perfect. So what are we here at Vertosa? We are a cannabis and hemp infusion technology. We are a technology company. We don't cultivate, we don't extract, we focus on one thing, and that's the infusion. That is being the delivery mechanism of cannabinoids crossing the brain-blood barrier, and you actually getting to feel the experience. We feel that we are the key to unlocking the potential of cannabinoids for that product of the future that we're all discussing with today. But really, how does it work? How do you get from something that's grown in the ground to something that's packaged and pretty on a retail shelf? And it takes a lot of chemistry, quite frankly, to get us there. So it starts with cultivation, and that cultivar is extracted into an oil. And then where we come in is we apply a nanotechnology, a nano emulsion. We're taking high energy and we're turning that cannabis oil into an emulsion. Something that is water-based and easy to incorporate into a beverage or a confection like a gummy. But why do we do that? Well, really is because we're focused on designing a very predictable and familiar cannabis experience. We all know the stigma behind smoking and vaping, especially as Adriana was pointing out. There's concerns around respiratory health, especially from COVID. And people have been drinking beverages, as you kind of see everyone here on this panel doing, I think about 10 or 15 times at least in this past 45 minutes, every panelist has raised a bottle to their mouth. It's because beverage consumption is something that we all do every single day. It's familiar, it's approachable, it's safe. But taking an oil and putting that into a water, as we all know, do not naturally mix. So we had to figure it out. And then with edibles as well, as you've heard the panelists say time and time again, fast acting, speed. You got, Michael's a speed junkie. We got to get it fast. Why? Because the stigma in the past was that it took too long to kick in. There's so many people that have had that experience back in college or, the dorm room where they had a cookie or they had a brownie and it was delicious, but they didn't feel anything for an hour. And then they had another one just to make sure it was working. And then 2 hours later, boom, they're on the ground. And hey, you know what? They had a bad experience. They got too high and they've been turned off for 10 years. And now they're coming back. And now they're like, look, I want to try it, but I'm a little scared. How can I safely enjoy cannabis and not have to smoke? And so the science behind all of that is really getting these cannabis oil that you see on the screen across your brain-blood barrier faster. And that's where technology and chemistry kicks in. So, typically it's like that college experience that you had. If you think of your brain-blood barrier as a chain link fence, that's what you got to pass through, right? That's the key. And a traditional oil is like taking a big old beach ball and trying to get it through the chain link fence. It's just not going to go through. It's going to bounce back. So what we do at Vertosa is that we take high energy, a nanotechnology, and apply that to the oil. You wrap it, encapsulate it, and kind of heard that keyword with things that are called emulsifiers, and turn that big old beach ball into a pile of marbles. So you take a handful of marbles, you throw that through the chain link fence, you're going to get them to pass through. And that's what allows us to have that fast acting experience, allows you to actually start to absorb cannabinoids sublingually as you're sipping that beverage or you're sucking on that lozenge, and start to feel the effects within 10 to 15 minutes. And then it has to also be supported by science, right? And so that's why we always talked about here is the consumers are so important. What do they want? Well, we know some consumers are scared of edibles, but they want to come back, and they're familiar with the traditional edible where they're using THC distillate, and they're saying that, hey, it's good, it works, but I don't feel it for an hour or 2 hours, and I have to like take it 2 hours before my event so that I can get to the event and show up and I have that feeling or have that sensory high. So they want it to go faster. So what we've done consumer trials. We've tested distillate versus emulsified Vertosa infused gummies, and have shown that, hey, people are feeling it. Over 50% of respondents are feeling gummies infused by Vertosa in less than 30 minutes. They're also feeling, at 30% feeling in less than 20 minutes. And then, good, 10% are feeling in less than 10 minutes. And so that gave us some really good indication that, hey, our stuff is working. It's being able to, really have consumers feel that high quicker. But we had to take it one step further. And we've actually gone further. Now, actually sitting here at our third-party laboratory where we're doing PK studies, and we're actually taking blood samples and consuming THC and cannabis so we can quantify the onset. And so in our initial phase, we did that with CBD, and we were able to quantify that, yes, taking an emulsified version of an oil is hitting the bloodstream within 10 to 15 minutes. And then we're measuring the Cmax and Tmax so we can measure what's the peak absorption. Where are you going to have that peak high so you can predict how you're going to feel after a specific duration. And that was at 60 minutes. And then we measured the rest of the sequence so that we know that this journey that you're going to be on, is going to start 10 to 15 minutes. And then you're going to ride that out at an hour and be at your peak, and then come on down within the next hour, hour and a half. And so what this is allowing is for more predictability, more metered, more consistent experiences that therefore serve as the platform for amazing brand and product manufacturers like this astute panel today to be able to design new and interesting products like beverages and gummies with not only THC and CBD, but other cannabinoids. And so we're providing that increased bioavailability so you feel it faster. We're giving you that stability and compatibility across different form factors. So if you're a brand, you have a beverage line, and then you may have a gummy line, and then you may have a beauty line. And so you can use this technology across the different lines. That's that flexibility and versatility in ingredients. But we're also giving you that evidence-based research so you have that safety, reliability, and consistency that you need as a brand to protect your assets, your brand equity, the position that you have in the market, so that it's supported with data, supported with certificates that give that authenticity and credibility. And then it's really making that through that process, making it really easy to infuse, and giving you a high control of accuracy, and also really being able to kind of take it to the next level, so that you can really design an experience at scale. So you asked earlier about what things are we working on, what's new, what's different. Well, beyond expanding beyond California to Canada, Massachusetts, Michigan, and throughout the US, it's really designing experiences around different inputs. So the best part about the technology is that it's versatile. So where we can take and make distillate fast acting, we can also make isolates or live resin fast acting. As what I heard in this conversation just before, Adriana, is debunking that myth around the taste of the plant. I love when I see brands, coming out with live resin or strain specific type of SKUs, because the flavor profile alone is beautiful. When you have, strains rich in limonene, high citrus notes, or you have, strains that, are dominated with a gassy note, you can really kind of complement that with flavor profiles to make a very sophisticated and adult product. So we've been helping, brands and other product manufacturers design experiences using live resin, using rosin, so it's a pressed extract, so high lipid-based extracts, so that we can create adult products that have botanical flavor notes that are very sophisticated, and not just a sugary product infused with THC or CBD. So that's a little bit about kind of what we do, and I hope that was kind of helpful in the process, and kind of give you a little bit of peek under the hood about what we're doing next.
Yeah, I mean, as I said before, really understanding the minds, but in this industry. I always kind of sit and watch, these panels, and I think to myself how there's still folks that, have impressions that we're just a bunch of stoners, right? Running around like all high doing crazy stuff. And really, we are, business folks and scientists and academics and founders and business developers and lovers of a product, and care about consumers and consumer experience. And that's something to me that's just absolutely fascinating. In the comments, we had someone, a bartender, and talking about how they really focus on the consumer and asking that's their favorite thing, right? And so they can't wait to get back into the dispensary to really be face to face with the consumer and understand, what are you looking for? What's your lifestyle like? What do you want to use this for, right? And that's really fascinating to hear too, because, we want that evolution within our dispensaries and our bud tenders, really understanding our products and the science. And then that way they can really help the consumer. There's been many experiences where folks go into a dispensary or a friend or whatever, and they say, I'm new, I want to try this. And they say, oh, I'm going to give you just a low dose to start. Right. And then they give them, 25 milligrams, 10 milligrams, even 5 milligrams. Right. And then they end up in a situation, like we said, where they don't have a good experience, or it wasn't the experience they expected. We do have Ian Cayley, by the way, says, hooray for nano emulsion. So there you go. We've got a nano emulsion fan. So I just want to thank everybody here. There were lots of questions. If folks do have questions, we're going to put up some contact information so that you can reach any one of us. I'm sure in addition to being whatever junkie we are, we really like to share experiences. We like to chat with people. We like to talk about the space. So please feel free to reach out to any of us. I hope to see some of you again at our next event. And we have just about 2 minutes left. And so here's an interesting question. It's a very specific question that we can't answer, but probably in this, but does lead us to some of the things we're talking about. So we had Sean Haggerty ask us, what is the ideal ratio of ingredients, carrier, sweetener, liquid mold inhibitors for 500 milliliter batch of vegan and or omnivore infused edible? Right? Loaded question, right? But then it might answer the question of, how do I move from the kitchen to the shelves, right? Well, there's all these steps, but does anybody just want to close us out with how you go about, is it literally just trial and error, or how do you go about actually figuring out your ratios and what you're going to put in? Anybody want to just quickly take it at a high level?
I can say a quick comment, because that's pretty much making a full recipe, right?
Yeah.
So I specialize in gummies. So I have been working in gummies for about 4 years. And yeah, of course, it depends. It will depend if they want to use a hydrosoluble cannabinoid or they are going to use a liposoluble cannabinoid. What is the ratio of cannabinoids that you have to use? Well, that will depend on the dosage that you want and the size of the gummy that you want. If you want to use a sweetener, do you want to use sugar or you want to use a sugar alcohol? Do you want a sugar-free gummy or you want a sugar gummy? If you want a sugar-free gummy, then making a vegan gummy is a little bit more challenging, just because the ratio, the concentration of sugars and solids in a pectin gummy must be kept equally to the pH, and a gelatin gummy is much more forgiving. Anti-mold agents, for example, if the water activity of your edible is less than 0.8 because your gummy has it doesn't have enough water for mold to really form. But if your candy has a higher water activity, then you will need an anti-mold agent, but you won't be able to sell that in the market because according to the BCC, the Bureau of Cannabis in California, you must have less than 0.8% in an edible. So it's trial error, but there are some specifics that you must follow, like the water activity, the sugars, the concentration of gelatin and pectin. You can follow recipes that are already online where it tells you how much of pectin for a specific brand to use, how much of acid, and how much of sodium citrate you have to use for a pectin gummy. Gelatin is usually 6 to 8% depending on the strain of the gelatin, and the solids in your gummy is about 80%. So that's a very general.
Yeah.
I hope it helps, right?
Yeah, we got some specifics. That was great. Yeah, that was fantastic. Well, I really want to thank, everybody here on our panel today, and it's been a great chat, and we could literally chat all day. And there are more questions coming in, so please, these are our contact information, and we're happy to chat with you. We are chatting junkies as well. That's how you learn, and we're all in this space together. So I want to thank everybody. Have a great rest of your Thursday afternoon, and I look forward to seeing all of your new products. I mean, I hope we get like a sneak peek or something. So thank you, everybody. Have a really great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone. Thanks for coming.
Bye now.
Bye, guys.